Então, agora vamos dar um passeio na engenharia do luxo. Sim? Estamos preparados? Lucrécia?
Sim.
Hi.
Hello.
So happy to see you. How are you?
Thank you, me too.
Sí, bien, bien. So you agreed on discussing this idea of luxury being part of a system of creating magic, of creating fantasies and dreams. Well, tell us about your thoughts.
Yes, well, first of all, my name is Lucrécia Píttaro, and I'm a visual artist and a fashion and textile designer. I've worked in fashion as a designer for the past 19 years, and I also have my own personal practice. Through my intervention, I will expose my point of view on the concept of luxury and also on the mechanics of collaborations between brands and artists. So this lecture is organized in 3 sections, starting with the considerations on luxury, but from 2 perspectives. On the one hand, the creator, the craftsman, and the artisan, and on the other hand, the brand, the commander, or the client. I'll make reference as well to the arts and craft movement and their resemblance with our current times, and discuss the importance of narrative for the construction of a creative unity. And finally, I'll talk about the relationship between brands and artists in collaboration. So let's start with luxury. I want to start by proposing one of the perspectives that come along when defining luxury. This perspective is very far away from the immediate imagery that may pop up in your minds, such as excess, extravagant living, or something expensive that is pleasant to have, but is not necessary. What I'm interested in is not luxury associated to richness, but rather to knowledge, rareness, and beauty. We must accept that the center of gravity may be located elsewhere when entering the concept of luxury, to what refers to time and space. I propose 3 aspects within this concept, which are time, pleasure, and monetary value. All 3 axes are related both to the one that creates the goods and the one that consumes or commands the goods. I just clarify that it's my intention to blur the limits that are between the artist and the artisan, because in this way we allow a dialogue between their disciplines and expand the area of perception of both characters. So starting with time. On the artist-artisan point of view, it's fundamental to be able to take the time to create and produce a piece of work. This means to go along with all the process without the anxiety of accelerating or taking shortcuts. In luxury, there are no shortcuts. The artisan needs to enter a different time pace where all the steps of creations are respected. Of course, optimizing the time is not the same as replacing or eliminating steps of the process. From the consumer, commander, receiver point of view, they must be willing to wait for what it takes to create that object. They need to take the time as well to receive and understand the deepness of the steps and techniques needed for the production of the good. And in this way, they become aware of the universe of creation that an object implies. So concerning pleasure, the artisan will enjoy and encourage the pleasure that knowledge and technique can provide. I'm talking about, on the one side, the satisfaction of effectiveness, that did mean that his techniques and expectations concluded on a positive result, or maybe in a new way of creation. And on the other hand, the satisfaction of creating an object according to his standards as an artisan. On the consumer point of view, the pleasure is there in the pleasure of savoring a unique piece, the satisfaction of its efficacy and of its beauty as well. There is pleasure in the fact that it's a rare object, and they may experience the pleasure as well, knowing more or new things about a technique, about the process, about the artist that created the object and the origins of the product. So of course, if we're talking about luxury, we're going to talk about monetary value. But let's see from the artist point of view or the artisan point of view, money is related with the time that it takes to create a good, because there is a cost of knowledge and perfecting techniques through time, and that takes money. To take the time through the years to perfect a technique, it takes money and time. Apart from that, of course, there's a monetary value of the tools, of the technology and the supplies that he uses to create this particular product. And finally, on the consumer commander point of view, regarding the monetary value, they must be willing to afford the cost of a luxury good to understand what this particular good implies productively in terms of quality and in terms of durability as well. And of course, is related to this good as a distinctive symbol in the social signing system. So now I'd like to mention a little bit about the arts and craft movement because of its resemblance with our current times. The arts and craft movement was an English aesthetic movement of the second half of the 19th century that represented the beginning of a new appreciation of the decorative arts throughout Europe. It stood for traditional craftsmanship and often used medieval, romantic, or folk types of decoration. Initiated in reaction against the perceived impoverishment of the decorative arts and the conditions in which they were produced, all in the context of the Industrial Revolution. And this is a very relevant aspect to relate with our days, since we can see, for instance, in the fashion industry, how there are major efforts being done to ameliorate the production chain, the working condition, and the industry's impact on the environment. Of course, I will mention William Morris, that he was an English reformer, poet, and designer, who in 1861, he founded a firm of interior decorators and manufacturers, both at the same place, and they dedicate to recapture the spirit and quality of medieval craftsmanship. Morris insisted that the artist should be a craftsman designer working by hand, and advocated a society of free craft people, such as he believed had existed during the Middle Ages. And I quote what he said. He said, because craftsmen took pleasure in their work. And that's very important. And that is related to what I evoked before concerning the pleasure in the artisan point of view. So Morris had no practical objections to the use of machinery per se, so long as the machine produced the quality he needed. So this perspective on machines, which are our technology today, is very interesting because it means using all the advanced mechanics, but to benefit the quality and the viability of a good, and this without necessarily replacing the human craft. So after reading Morris' conferences, that I recommend them because they're incredibly updated and you feel like he's talking to us right now, I feel we can relate with what's going on in contemporary design that is taking a new direction by starting to consider craftsmanship as a luxury that will make the difference between the goods that are in the market. So now let's go to the importance of a narrative. And here it's from the brand point of view, the luxury brand point of view, and also the artist point of view. How important is to have their own universe and their own narrative. So in luxury brands, the holistic point of view that they propose is very important because there's an immersive experience taking into consideration all the access that I mentioned before, but as well space. because the object within a brand, it belongs to a collection of pieces that are the result of an artistic direction. And this artistic direction is a narrative that will display the object in a story. By story, I mean time and space, to locate an object in a space. And also the dialogue that starts and goes along with other elements. The narrative is built with the brand's point of view, acting as a filter that will influence their decisions while building a creative unity. By creative unity, I'm referring to all the members, all the different stages of a company and the people working, because each one of them will contribute to enrich that creative direction. So it's not one person or one element that will build that narrative. It's the whole group that will go along in the same artistic direction. Concerning the artist universe and the narrative in the artist mind and world, it's quite similar, the mechanics that operate, because the artist will see as well through its own prism and display all the elements that compose his or her personal mythology. In this way, he will nurture his own cosmos with different levels. So this idea of locating elements in time and space works as well for the artist universe. So let's see what happens when these two universes work together. Artists in our society are still considered as those who will give back through their work an interpretation of reality, their own reality. For a brand to associate with an artist is a differentiating strategy from their competitors, and they will bring along a distinctive allure. Merging both universes results in a particular good that stands out from the ordinary. And the extraordinary is deeply related to the concept of luxury. In practical terms, usually both the artist and the brand will try to combine their most representative aspects. This means the iconic product of the brand with the recognizable or characteristic style of the artist. In my opinion, both participants are equally important, since they will bring to the collaboration their knowledge and technique of their own. Both domains are complementary, and the result is a product that will expand the perception of the brand and of the artist as well. Both universes will act as the guideline for the production of the good. This type of collaboration contributes as well to the personification of a brand with an individual. It humanizes the product, and it represents the artist's universe in a dialogue with the brand standards. From the artist's point of view, there's always a story behind an object and its own particular universe. And his creations are loaded with this information that sometimes it can be explained. It has to be experienced. So there's the notion of experience that comes again on the artist side, but it's also present on the luxury brand side. So continuing with the idea of the trace, the artist will leave a trace on the object. And in consequence, is that is going to make the difference of this object regarding others in the market. So to conclude, I think that it's important to assume that the concept of luxury may have different interpretations today. And I choose to consider luxury from a more elastic point of view. This means what was a luxury before, it may not be the case today, and vice versa. And regarding collaborations, I think that it's fantastic to join directions. We must not be afraid to invest and take the time to understand the value of handmade goods, because it's a rewarding decision both from the encouragement of knowledge, that I insist on the knowledge of craftsmanship and the savoir-faire, and also in the economic impact that this association may have. Luxury brands nowadays are increasing their support and reinforcing the importance of craftsmanship in produced goods. And this decision implies that there are collaborations with artists and artisans and are creating a new way of perceiving a product. So artisans, for me, are the key of luxury because they embrace knowledge, excellence, they improve and transmit their techniques through generations, and more importantly, they take the time to create a unique and irreplaceable product. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Lucrécia. It was an amazing essay on luxury, well, and I'm really happy that you took the time to make this reflection and to share it with us. Being a person of project, you know, you are a print designer, you are so active, but I'm really delighted with the fact that you are such a deep vision, even if you're not an academic, but you are really refined, and it was a really beautiful thought to be shared. And you know, we had many brands that are related with this combination of working with artists and that intervention being part of the DNA of the project, and how you can combine, how you can discuss both identities and bring something new, and still going on in a narrative that is coherent and that brings plus value and really respects the client, the imaginary of the brand, and plus the product itself and all this creative process. So it was a really interesting and deep thought that you that I really value. So I think you should publish that.
Well, okay, why not?
Why not?
I think that it's interesting to try to take concepts that we already have constructed in our minds and really think about it. And it's not a matter of, especially with luxury, because we think that it's all bling bling and it's inaccessible, and actually nowadays what it's done by hand is a luxury, and what it's the technique and something that is really specific from one place, from one country, from one tradition, that's irreplaceable. And what the production world and commercial world, they try to do, they are trying to imitate that. And we know that the fast fashion, the fast production of everything, that it's about shortcuts. And craftsmanship, there are no shortcuts for craftsmanship, because you have to wait for the clay, you have to wait for the oven, you have to wait. And well, you can optimize that time, but it's a different, well, a different center of gravity, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
And you also have to educate your audience to understand what really is luxury, and this idea of these abstract ideas of value, of time, and taking time and the knowledge and the ancestrality of this knowledge, all that, it's like a really big value. It's cultural value. So you really understand it's not like, you know, being bling bling, like you said, but really being part of an history, being part of story, being part of culture, and bringing this layer of storytelling to your life, and you being happy to bring this slice of beauty with you, of poetry. Yes. Well, and also I think it's important that we compare what you said about luxury and the new luxurians, that also a new interpretation that related with sustainable values and really caring for the planet and the people living in it. And comparing, for example, with the project, I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen to it was in Portuguese, so maybe it wasn't easy for you, but the Refazenda project, that is an upcycling project. So it also implies craftsmanship, it implies time and knowledge, and even if the idea is for the object to persist through time and go through 2 generations, but being more popular, so to say, so not that exclusive. But the aura, the system of thinking is also really refined, and it's an all new engineering. But it's curiously similar to the story you told us. So it's interesting.
Yeah, sure. I think that this idea that it's merged with the idea of luxury, but actually it can be more popular. It can more people can have access to all of that.
So to say, not to say popular could be understood like a negative aspect.
No, like, I mean that open to everybody, like for everybody. And I think that it's okay to have different products in the market. It's okay to work with different techniques and different supplies and different technologies. I think that it's a way of understanding things in a new way. That makes me think, when reading the conferences of William Morris, he used to say in 1860 that at the time people in the city didn't have real bread, that at the time what they ate was a replacement of bread. So imagine what he could think of our bread in our cities today. So it starts with a piece of bread, and it can go along to all other kinds of products in all the techniques and I mean,
it's a way of starting a reflection. Yes, of course. Well, thank you, Lucrécia. It was fantastic.
No, thank you for inviting me. Thank you.